work with them on their systems. We see ourselves, Mark and I and team have seen ourselves as client advocates and advisors to help make sure our clients get the most out of their Microsoft investment. And we felt that we could really leverage our help desk, our client services team, and our entire team to better service our mutual clients together. So just a brief background about who Intellitec is. We've been selling and supporting accounting software systems since 1986. And for those of you that might remember, that even goes back to the old DOS days with the 5¼ floppy disks and no hard drives. We are a regional provider of Microsoft Dynamics SL, GP, and a customer relationship management software program called CRM. We are a wholly owned subsidiary of a small CPA firm based in Wilmington, Delaware here called Master Civil and Associates. And Intellitec has grown far beyond geographical boundaries that our firm typically serves. And we serve its clients from New York City through Philadelphia, through Wilmington, Baltimore, down into Washington, D.C., and Northern Virginia. We do have a dedicated help desk set up and a client services team that will help with client issues as they arise. We are a Microsoft Gold partner. We've met the new updated requirements for Microsoft to maintain our Gold partner status, and we're actually members of their President's Club as well. And together with the AFS folks joining us, we now have a combined 25 employees. And what I just wanted to share is what some of the expectations that you might be able to expect to receive from our combined team. We have additional experienced consultants, so in addition to more resources available, we also have some deeper knowledge into some of the third-party or ISV solutions that add to or enhance the functionality of the dynamic solutions, as well as some folks that have a heavy IT background and can really understand the Microsoft stack and other inner workings of the operating systems. Not that we want to be an infrastructure provider. We still want to work very closely with your internal IT teams or your external IT vendor for your infrastructure, but we have a pretty deep knowledge of what is required for the products and how we can collaborate and work with those teams to make sure that the underlying infrastructure is set up to support your dynamic solutions. We do have custom development resources on board, as well as very experienced SQL reporting services resources. In addition, I mentioned Microsoft CRM. We also work with a non-Microsoft solution called Intellitec, which is a cloud-based SaaS solution that is an alternative offering to some of our clients that are looking for a non-Microsoft or a cloud-based solution. As I mentioned before, we do have a dedicated help desk and client services team that is available to help with issues that you might have, be it support, renewing your maintenance plans, placing orders, etc. And we do have semi-annual user group meetings. We get together twice a year with our clients. It's a client appreciation event where we have a day's worth of training put together to review what's new, things that we think are important that you need to be aware of, and we take feedback from the previous user group session from our clients and receive their feedback about what they would like to see that would be helpful to them in the next user group. So a lot of our content is based upon what our clients have told us in previous meetings. I wanted to point out that our next user group meeting is going to be on May 9th, and this user group location is going to actually be at the Philadelphia Union Park in Chester. The Philadelphia Union soccer team is an SL client of ours, and they are going to be hosting the event at the stadium. So it will be an all-day get-together with training, information that will be important for you to be aware of, and I believe there's going to be a tour of the stadium afterwards and a cocktail hour to spend some time with not only the Intellitec team, but also other clients that are using the solutions as well. And then one last point I just want to make is we do put out monthly newsletters to our clients with information, tips, things that we think you need to be aware of, just to constantly provide you information and updates. And the last point I just wanted to make related to some of the professional memberships that Intellitec is involved with. We do belong to two associations that we really believe add value to our clients. The first one is CPA Associates International, It is made up of regional CPA firms across the globe. That it's a very active, supportive group. So if you have questions that our clients have in other geographical locations where maybe we don't have the expertise about some of the local rules or regulations, we can tap on the CPA Associates team, and we can contact the CPA Associate partner that would be in that regional location, and they can help us with any of the specific questions that our clients might have. And the second association we belong to is the International Consulting Network. It is made up of leading Dynamics resellers across the globe. It's by invitation only, and in order to remain a member of that group, we have to go through a peer review every other year to make sure we're providing quality services to our clients. In addition, the value add to us and to our clients is if we see a situation that we have not previously seen before, we can tap on members of the ICN and run the questions by them, and we might get answers back ranging from, no, we haven't tried that, to we tried that, it didn't work, don't go there, to, hey, here's the solution we provided for our client, it works very well, and please feel free to take that and offer that as a solution for your client. So both associations are very active, they're very supporting, and provide information that really adds additional value to our clients. So with that, I'd like to turn it back over to Mark.
Thanks, Rick. I would like to do a couple of further introductions. Since we have a few people with us today, we'd like to introduce to you. Obviously, Janice Wojtek and John Grebe from AFS have joined Intellitec, and they're still going to be primary support contacts for you, but they're not always available as they do have to go on site and they are working on other projects. So I wanted to let you know that there is other backup available for you, and there are a few key people that I'd like to introduce. One just came in the room, and she's actually perhaps the most important person for me. I've already run out of all my favors I can ask her. That's our customer service specialist, Lisa Stranahan. Lisa, can you just say hello?
Hi, everybody. This is Lisa. Like Mark said, I handle a lot of things for the clients. You'll probably be, if you haven't already, be getting notices from me regarding your maintenance plan renewals. If you want to order any software, I usually help the sales team put the quotes together, email that stuff back out to you. I'm responsible for placing orders, getting the reg keys back to the team. So I handle a lot of different things. And if you have any questions, you can always call. I can track everybody down typically. Some days are better than others. But, yeah, so I answer the support desk. So if you have any questions, you can just always call, and if I don't have the answer, I'll get the right person for you.
Great. Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
And I also wanted to mention another support option that we have. It's not on the call today because she's on the support desk, and that is Lisa Giovanni. Lisa is a longtime, very experienced GP technician, and she's going to be the backup for us on our help desk. So if for whatever reason there's a situation that's critical or you need help right away, Lisa will be able to take care of any needs that you'll have. She has access to all of your customer records. She'll know exactly how your implementation is set up, and she'll be able to help you. So those are just a few key people that I wanted to mention. Now we're ready to get into the main subject of today's presentation, which is GP 2013. Now GP 2013, like many previous Microsoft releases, has a lot of new features in it. In fact, it totals about 150 new features. But I'm not going to talk about the new features right away. I have another presenter who will be doing that. I did want to mention, though, some of the changes to GP 2013 that are not feature-related. And there are two very significant ones that I wanted to talk to you about. The first is a licensing change. Now let's go back a little bit. Everybody who's on the call has purchased GP already, but over the years, the way that people purchase GP has changed. Originally, you bought users and you bought modules. Everything was a la carte, and you built your own system more or less in a custom manner. Later, about 4 or 5 years ago, we switched to something called Business Ready. And Business Ready licensing meant that they started to group some of the modules into bundles, and they sold the product in that manner using two main paths to buy the product, and they eliminated some of the a la carte features which formerly were bought one at a time. In GP 2013, they're going to take that concept one step further. Perpetual licensing is going to mean that everybody will basically, upon upgrading, get a new menu of functions available to you, many of which you do not have presently. In fact, the number of modules that are now in the basic GP package numbers more than 50. So if you're buying GP new today, you would get this basic pack along with a minimum number of users to start out, and you probably wouldn't have to worry about buying any other additional users. So in order to level the playing field and make sure that our existing customers got treated the same way as our new customers, Microsoft has indicated that they're going to provide everybody with this basic package, and in fact even beyond this package, if there are modules here that you don't see on this list, you're going to receive them as well if you currently have them. So you're going to get all of these functions at the point that you upgrade. Your registration keys are going to change. Now I can hear what everybody's thinking. What's this going to cost? So here's the real good news. They're going to provide all of these features for you at no additional cost. So it won't charge you anything to acquire these new features, and it also won't change what your annual support plan will cost you. So we're going to freeze the system value that you currently have and use that as a basis for future support billings to you, even though your functions are going to be radically different. Now, I'm not going to spend the time to go through all 50 of these, but there are a few things that catch my eye and I'm sure have caught your eye. There are items that we have been asked about over time, or maybe you didn't want to buy because there was extra cost involved, that you now may want to look at. And I'm just going to highlight a few. National accounts. I know there's some people on the call that were asking about revenue and expense deferrals previously. I know there are a number of people on the call that presently do not use any electronic banking features, which are now going to be part of the system. Also refund checks we've been asked about. You also get all the configuration and development tools, which previously had to be purchased outright. Some were quite expensive in the $5,000 to $10,000 range. They're now part of the package. And the other very unique thing is human resources and payroll. Now, I realize that there are people on the call that already have human resources and payroll. You're not going to be left out in the cold as a result of this. While you did have to buy this up front, I would want to point out a couple of things to you. First, there's going to be some other advantages with the second item that I'm going to bring up in a moment. And I also want to bring out the other advantage that you'll have is there's not an additional cost for you to increase your user count or your employee count in payroll and HR. So you'll now be able to have unlimited payroll and HR capabilities. You also will get automatically direct deposit, magnetic media reporting, all of which used to be a la carte or paid for, and I know some of you are not using those features. So you will get some features that will enhance your current payroll application as well as all of the other items that we're mentioning here. Now I'm going to leave this screen up for another minute or two so you can really get a look at it. I think the key is going to be when you decide to upgrade to GP 2013, we will get together with you and carefully look at what modules you currently have, what you might be able to use under the new format, and we'll try to coordinate at the upgrade the implementation of some of these new features for you so that you can get a little more bang for the buck. Now on the other side of the coin, there is one other thing that we need to mention. There are some pricing changes to how these licenses are going to be purchased in the future. And again, this refers primarily to new people purchasing Great Plains now. Obviously, since they're getting all of these features as a guarantee up front, the cost per user is a bit higher. So for all the people on the call who currently have GP, there's going to be, like everything in life, like accounting software, as anything else, timing is everything. And the one thing that will happen is since you are currently on pricing models that are from the old method in which we sold the product, you have an opportunity now to expand your system prior to upgrading to GP 2013, and you'll be able to take advantage of your current price structure prior to upgrading. The converse of that is, after upgrading, the new GP prices come into effect. So for the majority of people on the call, new licensing would represent an increase in prices for you, but you can take advantage of your current pricing before you upgrade now, and again, I'll work with you on that. There also are some people on the call whose current licensing model actually is more expensive than the new Microsoft pricing will be. So to those folks, I would tell you the advice is, don't increase your system prior to upgrading to GP 2013, but instead wait until after you upgrade. And when you do that, you'll get the benefit of significantly cheaper pricing to expand your system and add more users. In fact, it's going to be at least 33% cheaper, about 33% cheaper to add new users. So again, the lessons to recap that we have is, we're going to carefully look at what you have to see how much more bang for the buck we can give you from the new system. We're going to work with you to make sure you have every opportunity to increase the reach of your system and your organization at the cheapest possible price. And then we're going to, going forward, work with you to implement these new features as you see fit as part of our upgrade process. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to turn our program over to Mr. Mike Bufano. Mike is the manager of GP operations at Intellitec, and he is going to be taking care of showing you the new features in GP and giving you a little guided tour. So Mike, if you're there, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Mark. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. Good morning. My name is Mike Bufano. I've been with Intellitec since 1994. I started out as a traditional CPA and then graduated over to the dark side in 1997 and started our GP practice. Presently, I manage our GP practice, and I'm just delighted to have Janice, Mark, and John to be new additions to our team, and I just really see a lot of great things. Our team's working together. It really strengthens our team, and just really looking forward also today to presenting to you GP 2013. As Mark had kind of indicated earlier, there are over 150 different features that come with GP 2013, and so we won't be able to cover them all today, but hopefully you'll get excited about some of the features that I showed today. I did just come from Convergence, and for those of you that aren't aware, Convergence is the annual customer conference. There were over 11,000 people that attended the conference this year. So I attended the various sessions as it related to GP 2013 and beyond. And so hopefully some of the things that I show you today you'll get excited about. And so we'll just go ahead and get started. I'm going to touch a little bit in every one of these areas. I'm going to talk about some of the features in each of these areas that are in 2013. And then I won't show all of them, but I'm going to jump in and show one or two features for each of the area. So having said that, let's get started. So the first thing I want to do, and I guess the first bullet point is just a little bit of a misnomer, is I want to actually talk about some of the system features that everybody's getting excited about. So let me just, so there's three features that aren't on this list here. I want to kind of talk about the web client, the save sort order option, and the select printer option. In addition to that, you can see some of the other areas that were rounded out for the general ledger. We now have the ability to look up journal entries. Historically, previously you could only look up journal entries for the current or open year. There is there's now also the new reconcile inventory with the general ledger. So I know that previously we had to go to a third party to have that functionality. So now we're really excited that we now have a tool similar to the reconcile AP and AR. Now we have reconcile inventory. And then we also have some new year-end close options. So with that presentation, this one right here? Okay, I will on the next one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of show you some features right now. The first thing I'm going to show you is let's see here, I should be logged in already to the web client. So now GP actually comes with a web client. So for those organizations, this is beneficial for those organizations that don't want to do a client install on the desktop. The web client is an optional install. It allows an IT administrator to be able to really just centrally manage GP, and then the end users then would pretty much run everything that they do through a web browser. So you can see that I'm using Internet Explorer here. I'm logged into the financial page. And one of the first things you'll notice is that I have new ability to move the different menus around, and they'll, so that I can really position the desktop to be useful for the way that I prefer to do business. The other thing that, the other new feature on the desktop, and this would be pervasive whether you're on the financial desktop or the sales or the purchasing or the HR payroll list page, is you have the ability to kind of maximize one of these areas. So you can see here that I've just kind of maximized the inquiry area. Now if I want to go over to the transactions area, I can maximize that menu and still easily access the other sub-menus here to the right. So again, it just gives a great user interface to the end user, makes it easier for them to do their job, and it's just great that we're doing this in the web client. The next feature that I'm going to show, and I'm going to show the remaining features actually in the traditional client here. I've set up a bunch of shortcuts on my home page here to kind of take us through the demo. But the next feature that I'm going to demonstrate is the Saves Sort Order function. So to kind of set this up, when you do a lookup on a particular set of customers or GL accounts or vendors or items or employees, when you look it up, you always see all of the same employee IDs. And so what this new Save Sort Order default allows us to do is it allows us to actually have our favorite list saved specific to me. So this is a user-specific setting. And essentially, you can see here that I've set the particular filter called Department for me. And when you do it, you click on this button called Set as Default. So if I uncheck this, that would be the default view. That's what you see today when you log in. But if I want to change that setting, I can choose any of my Smart List favorites and click that as Set as Default. And then anytime I open that window, that will be the short list of customers, vendors, items, or the chart of accounts that I want to see in the system. The next feature that I want to talk about is the Select Printer feature. So I'm just going to pull up a report to screen here because a picture's worth 1,000 words. So nothing new about the report itself, but now we have the ability, when I click Print, it's actually going to prompt me for the printer that I want to select to, that I want to print to. So this is a new feature for 2013. So I can tell you at Convergence, 7,000 GP customers standing up in front of Aaron Schoenfield, who is the vice president of the GP division. Everybody gave a standing ovation for this feature. So finally, we're able to more easily control where our prints report to from within GP when we're printing. The last feature that I'm going to show on the financial piece here is the ability to do the reconcile. So that's under routines. And if I go reconcile to GL here. So if you've used this feature previously, you know that there was payables and receivables. Now we have added 2 more features called inventory and bank reconciliation. And they work very much the same way, where you put your accounts up here and you hit process, and it will give you an Excel report output that tells you which transactions match the inventory subledger to the general ledger, which ones might match, and which ones don't match at all. So again, very similar functionality to what happens in AP and AR. If you're not using these, these features were available as of GP10, so these are carried forward to 2010. So now you actually have 2 more between inventory and bank reconciliation. I'm going to move on to the next set. I'm actually not going to really demo any of the fixed asset features, but we'll just talk about these. They actually had a separate breakout session just to show all of these. So some of the really key ones that I think is the ability to do intercompany asset transfers. So now if you have multiple companies and one company transfers an asset to another one, now there'd be a transaction for that, and so fixed assets now supports that. So that's a really big deal. We also have now the ability to do mass depreciation reversal. So in the past, when you made a mistake, it became a little bit different type of a process to get that depreciation corrected. You can now mass undo your depreciation, make whatever corrections you need to make, and then depreciate it again and have complete audit trail tracking on that. So those were some really nice features that were added with GP 2013. There's also the auto-generate the next asset ID. And previously we went out to the Intellitec ISV product to provide this functionality to you. So now this is going to be default functionality. So again, it's some great, you can see that Microsoft spent a lot of effort in really bringing forward the fixed asset features. The other couple of nice features is the ability to define short years and calendar years in fixed assets. So again, that's just to better meet the changes that your businesses are facing. You may be selling a business, you may be acquiring a business, you may have a business startup, and that may require you to have a short year for one of your particular years, and so fixed assets will now support that. The other feature that I don't see listed here but I thought was very beneficial was the ability to be able to have tax books on a fiscal year as well. So I think previously you had to have your tax books supported on a calendar year. So now I had attended a session and they showed us that we could now track our fixed assets on a fiscal year as well. So all great features for fixed assets, and for anybody that's made that investment, it's only going to be an easier tool to use moving forward. And for anybody that maybe was holding back, I think that the features that you were looking for, I think they're now here and you can proceed with implementing fixed assets. So I know the slide says demo, but I think what I'm going to say there is you're going to have to come to our user group in May to see that information. Some other things here that were added to receivables management. And again, I'm going to kind of skip receivables management, and my next actual demo is going to be in payables. But we have the ability now to email using Microsoft Word templates. So that was a feature that was kind of lacking in GP 2010. If you'll recall, for those of you that used Word templates, you can use the Word templates for all of the sales order processing functions, such as a sales quote, a sales order, a picking ticket, a sales invoice. And so it wasn't really extended to the ability for emailing and using it in receivables. So they've made it easier to use and better to use in receivables. So I thought that that was very beneficial. There's also now GP will also track whether or not an email has been sent to your customers for a particular document. So I think that that's going to be beneficial as well. And that's going to be pervasive in the sales order processing as well as receivables, and in the payables area. You'll have that email indicator. So let's move on to payables. So in the payables, there's a bunch of new features here. The one that I'm really excited about is having the ability to reprint your check stubs and your remittance forms. And for those of you that use Micker, the McCormick Micker, you already had that functionality, but for those of you that use GP as the backbone for your accounts payable processing, you really didn't have this capability. So now we have that capability. The other piece that I like is we have the ability to edit the remit to address. So these are some of the things that I'm going to demo for you shortly. But often if somebody makes a mistake entering the invoice and they put the wrong remit to address in, or the wrong remit to address defaults in, and then you go to cut that check, it would go to the wrong, it would have the wrong address on it. So if that mistake was made in the past, you had to void the invoice and re-enter the invoice and then get the correct remit to address on there. So now what we'll be able to do is we have a screen now that allows us to edit that. The print 1096 forms, so we now finally have the ability to print 1096 forms. So I think that was a feature that was people were requesting for years, and so now we're glad that we finally have that. We also have some other 1099 functionality, such as the ability to change information about a transaction so that it can be included in the 1099 totals. So that's going to be better functionality for you to just make sure that the transactions that support the 1099 totals, the underlying transactions are now have an easier way to correct that. The last thing I just kind of want to point out is, in the past, if you've used the GP credit card payment capability that you assigned to an invoice, when you voided that in the past, the associated credit card piece wouldn't be voided when you voided that vendor invoice. Well, now both the vendor invoice and the credit card associated with that payment will also be voided if they were treated as one transaction. So that's going to be some nice functionality. So let's go ahead and jump into the demo here for some of that. Go back to my home page here. I'm actually going to backtrack here. I skipped this. I meant to show this to you. These are the unit accounts, so this is really on the financial side. We now have the ability to clear the balances at the beginning of the year. So anybody that's using statistical information, those balances always rolled forward. But if you wanted those balances to reset, those balances will now clear out if you include that in the setup. Let's look at the Edit Payables window here. So what this window does here is this window allows us to change the remit to address for a particular vendor. So if we made a mistake or we didn't assign a remit to address, we now have the ability to correct that without having to void the invoice. So that should make our processing more efficient. Here's a screen on the 1099 information. And I just have to look at my cheat sheet here. So if I bring up this vendor here, if you see this vendor here, you can see this vendor. I can see all the transactions associated with this vendor. I can see here that this transaction didn't have a 1099 amount associated with this transaction, and I can drill back and say that, well, maybe that was a mistake. It should have, that full $100 should have been coded to the 1099, and it wasn't. So now I can make all of that be part of that transaction, and that will correct the 1099 balance for that particular vendor, or I can even do a partial amount. So this is, again, a new screen, new functionality, and the crowd seemed to love it. The other feature that I'm going to show here is going to show the ability to reprint the check stub. I'm going to pull that same vendor up again. I'm going to find one of the payments in here that I've done before. So when I click into this voucher payment, you'll now notice there's a new button on here called Recreate Check Stub. So I can click on that, and I can print that, and I can take a look at exactly what all the documents and all the credit memos that were included on that particular check run. Oh, that's the same screen, sorry. Okay, let's jump back into our next area we're going to look at is purchase order processing. Actually, we're going to look at distribution. So you can see there's a lot of different features that were added to distribution, and we'll look at some of these. I already mentioned the email indicators. I already talked about reconciling the general ledger to the invoice. We're going to talk about some of these. We're going to start with purchase order processing. My favorite is the ability to have a prepayment on a purchase order. There also is the ability to track serial and lot numbers for drop ships on a PO. So previously we could not track serial and lot numbers for drop ships, but now we can. And we can also control whether or not a PO is going to automatically close. So those all seem to be the types of requests that our clients have had throughout the years. So let's kind of take a look at some of these. So we're going to jump into GP here. Apologize for the echo. I understand there's an echo, and we're trying to figure out if we can correct the echo that might be coming through. The first thing that you'll notice, to be able to record some kind of prepayment on a purchase order form, there's a new area in the setup window here, and you will associate a prepayment account if you're going to use this type of functionality. And you can also control this area with a password so that you can prevent certain people within the organization from using this functionality. We'll go into the purchase order screen here, and we'll pull up a PO. So you can see here that I have a PO, and there's a new prepayment box on the window here. And if I click on that here, I can control what type of prepayment that I want GP to provide. So if I want a check to be cut, I would select computer check, and then that will go and queue up accounts payable. If I want to pay it with a credit card, which is usually what my customers ask me for the ability to do, I would select manual payment, select credit card, and then I could choose the credit card that would be associated with the purchase order, and then hit OK. And then this particular functionality will then create what's a manual payment batch. And then when you post that batch, that will have recorded the credit card transaction that when you pick up the phone with a vendor and charge your card. But this is functionality that our customers have asked about for years, so I know that the group was really excited about that. You can see here, because I saved that, it's giving me some reports and telling me that these transactions were created. The next area that we're going to talk about is the inventory area. So for those of you that use inventory, you'll be very excited to see that you can now inactivate items. Previously, you probably used a combination of methods to try to prevent those items from appearing in sales order processing or purchase order processing. Now having the ability to easily inactivate items or inactivating sites will make your lives a lot simpler. There's also going to be an audit trail history on all the bin transfers, and as we'd already mentioned earlier, we have the ability to reconcile to the general ledger. I'm also going to show the reason codes on the inventory adjustments or the inventory transfers. So I know that I have some distribution clients where that this is just going to be so beneficial for. I'll also show the ability on how to select more than one serial or lot number at a time. So let's jump over into GP. First, we'll go to item maintenance, and I think that this is pretty self-explanatory, but now we have the ability to inactivate items. Previously, you probably did something with discontinued, or maybe you put them in a particular class, discontinued or inactive, and maybe excluded that from your lookup list. Or maybe use the pistol tools and maybe you change the item ID so that it drops to the bottom of the list. Well, we don't have to do those things anymore. Now we have just a simple way to manage our inventory that we no longer want to be able to sell or purchase. Along with that, we now have the ability to inactivate a site. So the example that they presented at a conference was you may have inventory sites throughout the United States, and for some reason, if one of those sites goes down or needs to have some kind of maintenance, you can inactivate the site, and then other types of order processing transactions or purchasing transactions won't consider that site for those transactions that are processed that day. And that way you can just provide better customer service and really being able to see visibly that, oh, we don't have access to that site today, and you can look at the other sites where you would have inventory on hand. Not only can you do this globally, but you also have the ability to do this on an item by item site combination basis. So you can actually say just this item, just this site is inactive for some reason. Well, so maybe that item site combination is still valid in one warehouse, but maybe that item site combination is invalid in other warehouses. So it just makes your processes and your access to the end user's access to information that much more efficient, because the system really is now supporting what operationally might be happening in the warehouses. The next thing that we want to talk about is the reason code setup. So now there's a new area under cards and inventory where you can define an unlimited number of reason codes and associate them to a particular GL account. So previously, when you did an inventory adjustment, it would default to the inventory offset account associated with that item, and that was kind of limited because there might be other types of GL accounts that you wanted to associate with your inventory items for types of transactions such as waste, shrinkage, employee purchase. Really, your business determines what those reasons are for making the inventory adjustments. So now you have the ability to do that, and those can be used on the item transaction entry screen. So you can see here when you are doing an inventory adjustment, it's not a required field, but you could tag a particular item adjustment with a particular reason code, and then that particular GL account will be substituted in for what the default value from the item or the posting setup might be. As far as selecting more than one, let's see here. I think what I need to do here is just kind of click on Save. I think I messed this one up, so I'm going to just delete that transaction and do from scratch. So the other option I want to talk about is the ability to do an adjustment where we can select more than one lot number at a time. So I'll do a negative adjustment, and if I click on my serial lot number, it would be helpful if I picked an item that had something in stock here. So we get this posted. I see what I did wrong. So now we'll come back in here and we'll do an adjustment. For a negative amount. So now I can click sequentially, or I can select non-sequential numbers and hit insert, and I can do that for lot and serial track numbers. I'll just assign that to a batch. Okay. Moving on to the next topic. Sales order processing had some new features. In sales order processing, we now have the ability to, they added a field to track the company name for all of the address IDs, and I believe that this is available also in accounts payable. So this should fix the 1099 setup information for that, but now with the ship to address with a different company name, we can override that right in during sales order processing. We also have the ability to consolidate POs from dropship sales orders. So that's for those organizations that are using the PO generator, or that's going to be very beneficial. We have the ability to combine invoices. So we can take multiple documents, combine them on the one invoice. So previously we had to go out to an ISV product to do that, so now we'll be able to do that within GP. And I'd already talked about the email indicator function as it relates to that. In the spirit or the interest of time, I understand that there's some customers on the phone that also have payroll, so I'm going to skip presenting some of these functions and kind of get into a couple of the payroll areas. So Microsoft invested a lot of energy into improving payroll, human resources, and all of the advanced features. So some of the things that that you expect to see there with the new healthcare law, we need the ability to better control the taxability of the employee part of the FICA. And then the other two big pieces here is the billed exception report and the duplicate checks. So now we have those features built into the product as part of the payroll process to make it easier to get your payroll out more accurately and kind of avoid some mistakes. And then also they've changed the default alignment drop down when you go to print checks. So previously when you went to print checks, the drop down box would default to alignment. Now it's going to default to actually the computer check and save you some time there. So let's go ahead and kind of show some of these areas. So the first thing I'm going to do is come into the deduction setup area. So what you'll notice here is for the tax sheltered area, for those benefits or for those deductions rather that need to be sheltered for these pieces, we now have an extra checkbox. We didn't have those before, so now we have 5 checkboxes for those. And to be able to get the extra reporting, so we get the extra billed check register report and duplicate check reports. We just kind of come in here, shrink this up a little bit. When you do the upgrade, you'll have to turn this functionality on, but the reports are going to be added in here. So here's the UPR duplicate check option. So you're going to have to check that box as part of the upgrade, or our consultants will do that for you, but that's where that's coming from. And then the other reports in here too. I believe this is it right here. Now there it is, the build, this is it right here, the build check file exception report. So that's the other one. That's a separate report where it basically is going to list out just the transactions that are exceptions instead of having to look through the entire build check report. Some employees are good, some employees are bad. Now we just have a separate report where all the exceptions are on one report. So there's a normal check report that we have. I think I was supposed to go to the build checks window for that. I apologize. Let's see here. Let me go here. There we go. There's the build check file report. So this is what you get today, and there's the exception report. So that's the new one. So here you'd have to scroll through this report in the past to find all of your exceptions, and then if there was any exceptions, you can see here I don't have any employees with any warnings or errors. So that's the new report. And that is, just I guess in the spirit of time, that is the last demo that I wanted to present to you today. So there is an awful lot of functionality. I wish I had more time with you today to share that with you. I do hope that you'll come down and meet the extended Intellitec team. The next opportunity to do that will be in May for our user group. So I guess, Tom, I need to turn this back over to you.
Thanks, Mike. Great job. We're coming to the conclusion of our webcast today, so thank you all once again for your time. We know how very valuable it is. We do have an opportunity now, if anyone has any questions, any of the presenters in the group will be happy to answer them for you. I wanted to also mention just a couple of things. Again, our user group will be sending invitations out to everyone, but circle that on your calendar for May 9th. And I also want to make sure that you're directed to our website, which is IntellitecSolutions.com. There's always lots of information on there, and there are special pages for AFS customers with additional information there that we'd like you to take a look at. So are there any questions, or is there anything we can help you with? Tom?
And again, as a reminder, there's a few things you could do. If you want to type a question into the question box, feel free. We are going to go ahead and take the lines off of mute if you want to ask a question verbally. So again, you can type a question in, or you can ask your questions. Just bear with me one moment. This is not always the most cooperative to get everybody off of mute, but unmute the lines here. And I think we do have a question. Can we use the same telephone number and email address for support?
Let me take that one. For the moment, the answer is yes. So the existing AFS tech support line and email lines are manned every day and will continue to be manned. At some point in the future, we will probably consolidate some of those operations, but that change isn't anticipated shortly. So please continue to contact us as you always have.
Okay, great. And again, we have everybody off of mute, so if you want to ask a question verbally, if you want to type a question into the question box, feel free to go ahead and do so. Looks like we have one other question here, a new question in here. Any changes on blanket purchase orders?
On blanket purchase orders? Mike, if you're on the line, maybe that's one you could handle. I'm not familiar with that.
You still there, Mike?
It looks like Mike may have dropped off the call, but I will follow up with you on that. Tom, do you have the origin of that question?
Yeah.
Let me find out the answer for that for you, and I'll email or call you later this morning and let you know.
Great. If there again, we have lines off of mute. If anybody wants to ask a question, if you want to type it into the question box, either one, feel free to go ahead and do so.
I don't think the lines are off mute because I was trying to talk and you couldn't hear me.
Yeah, I didn't hear you.
No, they're all there. Prevent purchase order close option. Can we now invoice customer without closing PO?
I'm not sure if I understand that question. Can you repeat that?
It says prevent PO close option. Can we now invoice customer without closing PO?
Invoice a customer without closing a PO.
Oh, so you're talking about, I think what the issue is, are we on mute here? Okay.
I know you're good.
I think the issue is we're talking about a sales order that's associated or linked to a purchase order, and do we have the ability to release the sales invoice without entering the purchase order invoice? And the answer to that is that functionality is still the same. We still need to do the purchase order invoice, or what I've done with our clients is you can actually break the link and you can invoice the customer if that makes sense to do that. So,
okay, yeah, I think that's exactly what the question was, Mike. And Mike, the prior question was about blanket POs. I'm not sure if you're familiar with any changes to the blanket PO.
I don't think that was fine.
Yeah, well, so we'll get back to you on that question.
Okay, good questions. And again, you can feel free to ask verbally. You can type a question in the question box. We'll just give it a few more minutes here. I'm sure some others have questions. Okay, are there any changes, upgrades to the requisitions in GP?
So the requisitions, I'm going to think that maybe you're talking about the business portal requisitions, which is the web-based requisitions. If that's where you're coming from, the next version of Business Portal has not yet been released, and it's going to be released in April. So we'll have visibility of that functionality. Alternatively, if you're using the purchase order approval system to do the requisitioning, I'm going to have to look at that. I don't remember anything being presented at the conference, so I'd be interested in knowing what features you're looking for there. So, but nothing jumps out at me at this point on the purchase order approvals or the purchase order enhancements feature.
Okay, great questions. We'll leave the lines open for another few moments here. Again, you can ask anything verbally, type a question in the question box. So let's leave another moment here.
Looks like we've exhausted the questions at this point. Again, let me emphasize that I'll work with you all individually regarding the best way to take the most advantage of GP 2013. We're very excited about this. As you can see, it's a very robust and exciting upgrade, and we look forward to deploying it for you in the near future. So with that, I want to thank everybody for logging on, and I hope you have a great day.
Hey, thank you, everybody. With that, we'll close the meeting.